My name is Agi. I will be the one presenting today, talking about creativity and burnout, my journey with this, and like helpful pointers on how to prevent and counteract these things. I am an entrepreneur, and like truly one, because I don't just have one revenue or like one career. It kind of evolved throughout the years, and at this point, I'm like doing a bit of everything, which is great for me because I have ADHD, so I cannot really commit to like one big thing. I enjoy doing many different things, topics. I started out as a musician. I have a degree in music. I was playing the violin for more than 20 years, and also I am learning to sing for like 10 plus years. So it's a big part of my life. But that was actually my first encounter with burnout. At a very early age of 21, when I finished college as a musician, I realized that I will probably not be able to do this long term because it requires for me too much, like I have to offer too much of my life to be able to maintain myself in this career. So after finishing my college degree, I pivoted to personal training because this was like a big topic of interest of mine back then, how the human body moves and like the whole healthy lifestyle, etc. So I took a short course of this to obtain the necessary papers, and I started to work as a personal trainer in, I think, 2018. No, sooner, 2017. I think this is the 8th year that this is my main income. And even back then, it was highly encouraged to have an online presence, to like market yourself, brand yourself, because it was mostly on us to be able to obtain clients. The gyms usually, like, they offer you a little bit of help, but it's mostly on you to find people who will come and pay for your services. At this point, I was already familiar with the internet, although it was not present in my childhood. I was born in the early 90s, so I think maybe the internet was a thing back then, but definitely not a household thing. We didn't have a computer with an internet until I was like 13 years old. So I think I am very lucky that I got to like exercise my creativity with mostly offline tasks as a child. I was like doing beadwork, and I learned to knit, to crochet, I don't know, all kinds of drawing, paintings. Just for the fun of it. It wasn't like a career thing. The only thing that was more serious was music, but that's also offline as well. So I think I was already like, I don't know, 15, 16 at least, when I first started to like have a deeper relationship with the internet. I think around that was when blogs started to like get known in Hungary, and that was the first thing that I really did regularly on the internet. But I feel like it was completely different than what it's considered blogging now. So it was like no one was a professional blogger. We didn't know how to, I don't know, we knew some basic HTML, but nothing more. We put together the most hideous pages with glittery pictures and animations, and we were all basically just teenagers trying to express ourselves at this new thing, at this new platform. It was mostly, as I remember, anonymous, under like pseudonyms. And I was fascinated by it. Like, I always loved reading and writing a diary. So I think it was basically like starting a diary online. I was protected by anonymity, but it was still fun that I could like click a button and then it would like go off into space or whatever, and then other people could read it and connect it with me, and like we could comment on each other's posts. And then I started to write some fiction as well and share that. But it was basically all just for fun. Nobody was thinking of it as a career. It was like a slight hobby at best. And then at 2009 was when I registered on Facebook. And it was a very different platform. Like, I remember that I mostly registered because it fascinated me that I could share YouTube videos. that I could cross share them. I could click a button on YouTube and then it would appear on Facebook. And that was just so fascinating to me that I had to partake. And that's what my feed was for like basically the first year of my Facebook life, just YouTube videos shared. And then, of course, behind the scenes, as Facebook started to take off and like brands started to realize that there is like a serious opportunity here, they started to monetize the platform. And I think that is what changed it, like in its foundation, that it wasn't just an experimental for fun thing anymore. There was money in it, which meant that eventually not just the platform, but the creators on the platform could earn potentially a living, but at least, you know, some side money. And this introduced capitalism to these platforms. And I think a core value of capitalism is hustle culture, hustling. And by the time I was a personal trainer and encouraged to have an online presence, it wasn't just a fun thing anymore. There was a lot of pressure. Even back then, 8 years ago, this thing known as algorithm was already something that everybody who was using Instagram more than, you know, just sharing casual pictures, we knew that the Instagram was present and we needed to please this Instagram. We weren't exactly sure how it worked, what kind of engineering was behind it. This was way before these like whistleblowers movies about these platforms, but we knew that what the algorithm likes, you had to post certain times of the day, certain amounts of the week, and basically just got more and more and more. And then the platform was also organized that if you are a content creator, not just a casual user, you open the platform and the statistics are presented right at your face at the front page. You cannot miss them. They are, I don't know, blinking, doing things. And they also come with a messaging, rewarding you if you do more and then punishing you if you do less. For example, there is this thing called, it's not an official name, but like content creators are familiar with this term. It's called shadow banning. It means that basically if you are posting about a topic that the algorithm doesn't like, or you're not posting frequent enough, then you are shadow banned. So you can see in your statistics that your numbers are dropping drastically. Your viewership drops, your content is not getting to as many people as before. There's a lot of speculation behind this, if it's real, if it's not, if it's just your content, if it's the engineering of the platform. Some also say that it could be tied to so when this monetization also meant that you could pay for your content to get out to more people. And then it is also speculated that the more people started to pay for it, the more difficult it got to have organic reach. Organic reach means that you are not paying anything for your reach. You're just, you know, reaching people through, I don't know, sharing and comments and etc. etc. So yeah, this that I told has this like immense pressure of like hustling. There's more and more emphasis placed on quantity and not so much on quality, although the ideal is if you somehow miraculously maintain both. You churn out lots and lots of content and you somehow also maintain some kind of quality. Although quality, I think, means a different thing to the engineers and the owners of Instagram than what we, as I don't know, like people who care about social justice and stuff. So to them, quality is more like quality pictures, stuff that like catches people's interest. I've read many times that the average attention span of a person when scrolling on Instagram on any of these platforms is less than 10 seconds, and it's just getting smaller and smaller. So you have to basically provide some kind of shock value to catch their attention in those couple of seconds, hook them somehow so that they are watching more of your content. And of course, shock value is often it often means that you are exaggerating something and like kind of like maybe not lying, but like bending the truth in a way. So it's like, you know, shocking to the viewer. So they are catched and they watch the entire, God forbid, 30-second video instead of just 5 seconds. And this became more and more common. And then we started to talk about it. So of course, during my career as a content creator, I met other content creators, both online and offline as well. And we were sharing experiences. And then Also, I started to see more and more posts about it, and as we were talking about it, it was like a common topic that after like, I don't know, close to 10 years of content creating, we started to feel the warning signs of burnout, or like just full out burnout. So it's very common these days that somebody who has been like blogging, vlogging, I don't know, content creating for 10 years just drops off the face of the earth in an online sense, because it just gets to a point that burnout gets to a point that they just cannot do it anymore. um, and I think somebody who's not a content creator doesn't really grasp the amount of free money, free work that one puts into their content creation, especially if you want to provide some sort of value to the world. You have to like engage with your followers, which means answering their comments, opening and answering their messages. Oftentimes, they develop these so-called parasocial relationships. So even though they never really met you in person and they just see a slice of your life, even if you are vulnerable online, it's still just a slice of you, but they kind of start to feel like you are, like you know each other, like you are friends. So they will share more vulnerable things with you, which on one hand is an opportunity to connect, but on the other hand, it can become a burden when hundreds of people are sharing their deepest secrets and traumas with you day in and day out. And you have to like somehow, be empathetic enough, but then, how, so this is all new to our generation. We didn't grow up learning how to have boundaries on the internet, basically. And when somebody tells you their secrets, it's really, really difficult to tell them that, I'm sorry, I'm not your close friend. Maybe you should, talk to someone offline. It's really, really hard to draw these boundaries. But if you don't, like, this is a personal experience of mine as well, because I often talked about topics that are hitting vulnerable points with people, and then it was really nice connecting about it, but these are really heavy topics, and I could really feel just the effects of burning out and not being able to offer enough empathy and mindfulness to my offline surroundings, to like my immediate family, friends, the persons close to me. I was just so burned out from my online work that when I put my phone down, I just couldn't deal with my friends anymore, which is such a horrible thing and just such a backward way of things. Especially that the work I provide online, I don't get paid for it. The people who are getting the money are the people who put out ads on Instagram that you see while you're scrolling. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, so it's really hard to say no, to draw boundaries, because the algorithm rewards you for hustling. So for example, it's very common on Instagram that you only get certain functions if you have more than 10K followers, which, if you're an American with a, like a huge potential base of customers, maybe that's not a big deal. But in Hungary, getting to 10K is like a pretty big deal, and you have to hustle pretty hard to be able to get there. And like you kind of feel left out, so it's really hard to like step back and say that, okay, I'm gonna put it down, I'm gonna not deal with it today anymore, because you feel like you have this FOMO, this fear of missing out, because like I have to get to 10K to get this and this function, because the algorithm likes if I put this button here, and if I don't have 10K I cannot put it there, and it's that time of the day when my followers like to scroll, I have to put something out. So it's just a constant pressure, and it really seeps into our offline as well, or like not when we are living our life with outside of the internet. And I was reading like articles about this, and talking to other creators, and even people who are not creators, just like casually creating content, that it's becoming more and more common that we make decisions based on what would look good as a content. So say we are going to the cinema, we don't decide based on what film we would like to watch. We decide on what would look cool in an Instagram story. And this is really common in the like I don't know, generation Z as well, and some millennials as well. That we decide where to go on a summer vacation, what movie to watch, which place we choose to eat, based on what would make good content. And then when we are there experiencing these things that we should be present and like enjoy ourselves, we basically only see it through our phone screens. because we are busy creating content. We don't think about, oh, this food is so nice, I'm gonna enjoy how I taste the first bite. We are worrying about like what lighting should I put this in, what filter to put it on so it would look good in an Instagram story. And like if someone makes a living out of content creation, I understand to some extent that you have to think about, I don't know, vlogging and whatsoever, but it can really, really seep into your life deeply to the point where it's getting impossible to switch off, and you have to be very mindful about, even if you put your phone down, you have to like watch your thoughts as well around the stuff you do. And when you have that like jerk knee reaction of getting your phone out and taking a picture, you have to decide that no, this moment is mine and mine only. I'm not gonna take a picture, I'm just gonna keep it in my memories. It's okay if I'm not gonna remember every detail. It's okay if my followers don't see this moment. I have to keep this for myself. And I think this is something that somebody has to like remind themselves constantly, that you have to keep some things to yourself. And especially that with this whole hustle culture, there is kind of like a race in vulnerability as well, because vulnerability is often, I talked about shock value earlier, and it often provides enough shock value. If you're telling a tragic story about your life, as horrible as it sounds, it gets you likes. And I feel like many people get into this trap of craving validation, sharing vulnerable stories online, because like people flock to your vulnerable stories. But I feel like before you impulsively share these things, you have to pause and ask yourself the question that, is this something that I want to share? Is this something I'm ready to share? Am I like in a secure place with myself to like share it with potentially hundreds, thousands, millions of people who I don't know on the internet? Or is this something that I have to keep for myself? So like, I think a good example for this is mom bloggers. I don't have a child, so obviously I don't speak from experience, but I see that this is a really common thing with moms, that basically they share their child's first step, their first word, their first vacation. And like, it makes me wonder, like, shouldn't it be something that is just yours and your family's? And then maybe later on you can share a snapshot of a memory to tell about it to your followers. But do you have to share your life like real time, even if it gets you views and validation and whatsoever? When you reflect back to it, I don't know, like a couple of decades later in your life, will you not feel like it would have been better if it's just yours and not, sharing it with thousands of people real life? So basically, don't exploit yourself and your surroundings, especially with kids. They cannot consent. So it's kind of unfair to put this pressure on them. And I've seen a couple of like articles about this recently, about moms who have even been like reported to the authorities for exploiting their children. And burnout is not just something for the adults. You can burn out your children as well if you're constantly pushing a camera in their face and like teaching them early on that they always have to be alert because there could be a camera in their face. It burns out both you and your surroundings, so you have to be mindful, not exploiting yourself and your surroundings. I talked about like engaging earlier, and while yes, the internet is a fantastic opportunity to connect to other people, what really helped me with like providing myself safe boundaries is that I set work hours. And of course, if I feel like it, I can break those work hours, but basically teach it as, I don't know, your work email that ideally you're not opening on your couch at like 9 p.m. Do the same with these platforms. If you're a content creator, decide that, I don't know, after 6:30 in the evening, I will not answer any messages, no matter how urgent it seems. There are other ways to reach me if it's like truly an emergency. I don't have to answer messages. I don't like, the messages are not a priority when I wake up and I'm starting to get ready in my day, even if they are, because sometimes these people can be like demanding in your messages because somehow they get used to of people always like instantly answering them. But you don't have to do that. Just because others are answering immediately, you're not obligated to answer immediately. You don't have to be on call for your followers. You are allowed to say that I am on vacation, I will get back to messages in 3 days, or like next morning because I am tired and I want to put my phone down and I want to turn off the notifications. And you can also decide how vulnerable you are in your work, because like very often I see these messages, this messaging on Instagram that you have to be truthful, you have to be vulnerable. And if you feel secure enough, it can be a wonderful thing to share vulnerable experiences. But a big thing that can affect burnout and the severity of burnout is online bullying, which is unfortunately a real thing, which I also experienced. So this is like the dark side of being vulnerable on the internet, that unfortunately not everybody is empathetic, and not everybody thinks the best of you. Some people, for various reasons, will see an opportunity to attack you. So this is why I'm like putting an emphasis on only sharing vulnerable stuff that you are feeling secure with, because you don't know how people will react, unfortunately. And if you share something that is like really like fresh and raw, there can a lot of damage can occur if people take this as an opportunity to attack you, to like hit you in a spot that is like raw. So before you feel obligated to like put out something that can be valuable but is very vulnerable, just again pause and like have a moment with yourself and try and decide if this is something that you feel okay with, if this is like something that you talked about with your friends, your psychologist, your, I don't know, somebody who can like help you get through it. So you're not obligated to present your most vulnerable self. Just because you are not sharing something that is like vulnerable in your life right now, that doesn't mean that you're lying to your followers. This is not a reality show. You don't have to share something right away if you're not feeling ready to do so. So I'm not saying this because it means that you are obligated to like, so it's not your responsibility that bullies exist. I'm just saying this because this is a way to protect yourself, because unfortunately bad people always existed, they always will exist, and the online space is like, it means that they get to comment and like tell you stuff without having a face. So they can be even more aggressive, and it can really take a lot out of you if you have to like constantly ward off these like online attacks from bullies. And before we have a break, the last thing I want to talk about is boredom. This is something that I read somewhere. I can't exactly remember where I read it, but basically the best food for creativity is boredom. So if you feel like the warning signs of burnout, or you recognize that you are burnt out, schedule times when you are not doing anything at all, even if just a couple of minutes at first. So by not doing anything, I mean like not listening to a stream in the background, not scrolling mindlessly, not looking at emails, just staring at the wall, just letting like just try and like, I know it sounds like really cliche, but try and focus on your thoughts and like what's going on in your head. Try and like tune into them. Are your thoughts racing? Is there a certain topic coming up again and again? So really just try and do nothing at all, which is I know it's incredibly hard. It's very, very hard for me as well to not do anything at all. But I found that when I started to like regularly mindfully schedule in like do nothing time, my creativity that was like completely blocked before started to flow again. It wasn't immediate, but like if I truly let myself get to the point where I got bored, I started to have creative ideas because my brain started to fill out the space that wasn't occupied with other people's creative projects. So before we go for a break, this is like my takeaway message, that step away from hustle culture and like let yourself be bored, because it's one of the best ways to nurture your creativity beyond all the tips that I said before.